Network Photographers was an independent, cooperatively owned picture agency founded in London in January 1981. It grew out of a desire by a group of young, UK-based freelance photojournalists to work collectively in a non-competitive environment. Their aim was to produce socially concerned work documenting the world around them and to retain control and ownership of the material. By pooling their archives and providing each other with mutual support, they were able to find an alternative approach to the largely solitary world of freelance photography. As the agency's reputation grew, it expanded its membership, and by the mid-1990s, Network represented more than 40 member and associate member photographers worldwide, with its office in London employing 20 full-time and part-time staff. Whilst undertaking assignments from UK and foreign newspapers and magazines, photographers also pursued their own stories, covering many of the most important unfolding events of the time. Agency staff supported photographers by negotiating editorial and commercial assignments, syndicating stories, and managing picture sales from a library which by then contained 1 million colour and black and white images. Today I talk to one of its founders, photojournalist Mike Goldwater. Hello everyone, welcome to Pictures on My Mind. I'm your host Edward Thompson. I'm joined again by Mike Goldwater, who you might remember from his photo book Island, which we spoke about previously. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk today about network photographers.
Network Photographers, that's right. And we didn't quite manage to get time to get into it last time. Basically, Network Photographers was a seminal photo agency, ran for 24 years. Some amazing photographers were in it. And before I really forget, there's an amazing website. So if you guys at home go to networkphotographersonline.com, you'll be able to see a lot of work by the photographers we're talking about in this episode, and it's just an amazing resource. But yeah, Mike.
Okay, so just briefly, one question that arises: why network? And the reason is to work collectively, to work with other colleagues, because photography can be a lonely business. I had worked in a Half Moon Photography workshop and for several years, and working collectively with other people, like-minded people, could see how much one could achieve as a team. Bumping into other photographers in the street in the late 70s, early 80s, and you say to them, "Hi, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm fine." "What are you up to?" "Oh, I'm busy." "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm shooting this and that." I think, oh yeah, no one's sharing anything, and I didn't want to be part of that insularity. And so a group of us got together in 1980, and in 1981 we formed Network Photographers. So originally it was just 8 photographers and one person running the office, Martin Slavin, with Sue Trangmer as the picture editor. So it was great. Everybody had their own profile originally, or before they joined the agency, and then the agency got assignments for us, as well as us individually having our own ideas and following them through. And I have to say, it was a golden age in photojournalism, because the magazine market was thriving. The Sunday Times, The Observer, Independent, weekend magazines, Saturday and Sunday magazines. Some of them had Saturday and Sunday magazines. So there was a hunger. There was a hunger for good photojournalism. And also there was an international market. So after a little while, Network established a relationship with agencies in France, in VU, in Paris, in Spain, in Italy, in America, in Japan. Italy was particularly strong, actually.
Funny you should say that. My first break in a photo agency, because I tried the UK and no one was giving me the time of day, but I realised, because I didn't get to travel much, if I got my work to a different country, suddenly it was exotic. So I sent out a load of letters and one print to agencies all in Europe. They all ignored me apart from one, and that was an agency that had sprung from the ashes of Grazianeri called Lutz Photo, and they took me on board. So I did get a taste of that. I did get a taste of being sent on assignment. I did get a taste of doing my own stories and sending them to them pitched to other magazines. So for about 4 or 5 years, I did get a little taste of that. And you know what? It was a dream. It really was a dream. But yeah, there we go.
Yeah, well, and it's unfortunate that the whole thing tailed off. And the reason is digital, which is a whole other discussion. But we, as an agency, we would syndicate our stories. And after a little while, we decided to syndicate stories on 70mm. So we blow up, everybody was shooting colour, transparency, so Kodachrome or Fuji 100, And so the originals, once he had edited the whole set down, maybe been away for 10 days or 2-week assignment, come back with 100 rolls, he edit them all on the Lightbox, end up with a final set of maybe 60 pictures, 40 pictures, 60 pictures. And then in the agency, we could blow them up to 70 mil. So a sheet of...
Why would you blow them up to 70 mil?
Because when you hold them up to the light, you don't need a light.
Oh, you're basically doing like transparencies.
It's all like, transparencies. And 70 mil transparencies look so seductive.
Dude, I shot 6.7 like Kodak Aerochrome, which is basically a transparency film, so I know exactly, like, they look amazing.
They do. And a sheet of, maybe 4 or 5 sheets of colourful, beautifully shot, beautifully exposed, storytelling images. When it arrives in a magazine, because the agency would send that to different magazines. And I went sometimes to the magazine, particularly in Italy, and you could see on the Lightbox, jaw-droppingly good.
Well, what that was the equivalent of was there were a few photo agencies about 10 years ago who were press agencies, and what they realised is that everyone was sending their kind of almost raw files direct to the newspapers, and it was all kind of looking the same. So people who had the money would send them to, say, I think was it Tubi? There was a lab in Italy. So they were sending their photos, their digital files, to a lab to quickly Photoshop and zhuzh before it even got to the picture desks. And of course, if you're having an event with all these photos coming in and everyone's just basic RAW or basic JPEG, and then suddenly ones have come in that have been zhuzhed, it gave them the edge. So that's kind of what you were doing. You're basically, pimping out your photos to...
Indeed, except that because we were shooting transparency, everything has to be right in the camera.
Oh, yeah.
No, everything is. If it's not right in the camera, it's in the bin.
Transparency tip, kids. So black and white film has a really wide latitude. There's lots of room to kind of go wrong, right? Then you get colour film. Then you get colour film. Then you get colour film. It gets narrower. Then you get slide film, and it's even narrower. So the point is, man, you've got to be right on the money, but damn, does it look good.
If you get it right, it looks fantastic. So it'll fill in flash here and there, all that kind of thing. So just show you a few quick stories before we talk about the other photographers in the agency, because there's some wonderful people in the agency. And just briefly, when we started, we were 8. Over the years, other people came in, wanted to join. So by 1995 or something, we had 24 photographers, and the staff had expanded from 2 to 20.
Wow.
So we know it was an industry.
Wow.
It was gas. We had people working in the picture library, people working on corporate. We had just all the different areas being covered. So it was a gas. And one other thing, just very quickly, we used to do soirees once a month. In the 90s, we'd do a soiree. So whoever would come back with a good story would run a projection. So it'd be 3 or 4 people projecting, and we'd invite picture editors and other people in.
Wow.
So it'd be about maybe 40 people in the room, big screen, people talking about their work. It was such a buzz. Anyway.
Well, I've got a cellar mic, and these fine people here. So hey.
And more than 40 people.
More than 40 people, yeah. So
So
and all the photo editors watching, we are available for assignments.
So just talking about assignments. So this is one assignment, one about about police force training. It was for the Telegraph magazine. So
I just say that's a pretty wild cover, Mike. It seems quite contemporary. I mean, you see the way some of them are designed now. That's pretty wild.
Well, so the story. I'll come back to the cover in a second.
Yeah.
So the story was about police horse training, and so getting horses to be familiar and controllable and responsible in an environment of high drama.
And this was like poll tax riots period, right? Was it?
But It was, it was Thatcher's Britain. There was a lot of mayhem on the streets. And poll taxes were certainly part of that. So this is in the training centre, which is also set up to look like streets of Belfast. So because of stuff going on there too. So anyway, so they did a nice spread. And this is...
big photos, isn't it? Maybe, yeah.
And so this is police horses and police dressed as rioters chucking tennis balls and wooden bricks at the horses.
Yeah.
And...
my mum always got upset by horses in like war films because she was like, the horses don't know it's a film.
Yes, indeed. And they're wearing little...
shin pads.
Shin pads. So that's that. So I shot the story, and then I looked at.
Do you remember what you got for that, Mike? Do you remember what you got for that for a weekend magazine? Do you remember what they paid you for that all those years ago? I know it was like 34 years ago. Can you remember?
I think I did 3 days at probably.
3 days.
Yeah, 3
Wow.
days. Oh, well, it was 1 day for this. 3 days, probably. Was it 250 a day, or was it 300 or 350? Maybe probably 350 a day. I probably got 1,200 quid.
Right, because my first break in the weekend magazines was working for the Telegraph magazine, and that was in 2007. And it was a day, not a day. It was like a half-day portrait, and like of someone at their home and some bits, whatever. And I remember that was £400, and I was over the moon. That fee is kind of more than halved since 2007. So I've done assignments where it'd be like 180 for the same job now. So yeah, so wow. And to get that amount of time is wild, but hey.
Well,
I did worry when you pulled it out. I was like, wow, the Telegraph magazine was really thin. But I see it's just tear sheets you've cut out. Because the magazines have just got thinner and thinner as well.
For the cover, I wanted something which was going to have a little bit of drama. And so I was thinking about maybe shooting a low angle with the horses. So this... So I discussed this with the magazine editor, and he said, "Great." So I went back to the academy, and I said to them, "Look, can you walk past me if I lie on the ground
with my flash?
With my flash, and will the flash disturb the horses?" So this is fill-in. This is transparency, fill-in flash. So this is pushing the boundaries of the technique because you got blue sky.
Still flashing the sun's quite difficult, guys. Give it a go.
And you're going to need to get the exposure exactly right.
Yeah.
So I've got a handheld meter metering I know what I'm going to get. So then I'm lying on the ground and with the camera up, and the thing about having a camera in front of you, you're looking through the camera, it always distances you to a certain degree from what's going on. Mm. And if you've got a camera with you, you can do stuff that you wouldn't normally think of doing. Just doing it. I would never lie down in front of a police horse. Why would you do that? But for the picture, you do that. And I got them to do it 3 times.
Cool.
And, the guys had enough control over their horses that they...
This was a whole different day. This wasn't the riot day, obviously. This was another day. So these aren't horses that have had like tennis balls and wooden bricks thrown at them.
They were not that day.
No, they were chill. Good.
They were chilled.
Good.
So anyway, that was a story of the Telegraph. And then the thing about, because... we could syndicate. So then this story, once it's published, other magazines in other countries would see this and they'd ask for it. So then it would get syndicated. So as a photographer, you had 2 streams of income. One was the assignment and the other was the syndicated income, which was significant, could be significant. Yeah. Very quickly.
Secondary sales, we always got told, but that didn't really exist again by the time I graduated, really.
This was from an assignment, my own idea to go and do stuff about Sudan. That's Newsweek. This one is also for the Telegraph, as it happens. This was a story I wanted to do about Kurdistan. And
don't worry, we can photograph these after the fact because no one can
so this
see
is a cover story, and so I spent 3 weeks in Kurdistan with Masoud Barzani just after the end of the first Gulf War. Yeah. And that was an amazing time.
So early 90s, right?
Yes, yes.
What an amazing shot there, Mike.
Yeah, it was being with him.
The thing is with the slide as well, it's the shadows. The highlights are so clear in that one, and the shadows, it gives it such great contrast.
And he was such a leader, and he was so revered. It was just very special to be with him and to be with, the Kurds have been so abused under Saddam Hussein. So, and this is in Penjwin, where the town had been leveled.
When you were doing this kind of work, did you have a fixer? Did you have anything like that? Or were you just going in and making contacts? And
so it's all about setting things up.
Yeah.
In every story, every single story, if you just turn up, you're going to be disappointed. Yeah. You have to do your research, you have to do your homework, you have to find out what's going on and what is the story and how you're going to cover that story. So sometimes it is that you hire a fixer, sometimes it is that you're working with the organisation
Like an NGO or...
Could be an NGO, or it could be a political group.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a story about the Serbs during the Bosnian War. I ended up working with someone from the press office, and it was an interesting, fascinating time to be with the Serbs, because everyone was covering the Muslims, and everybody thought the Serbs were shits, and absolutely right. God, they were appalling. But it was really interesting.
Because I've seen photos of you hanging out with like pirates on boats and stuff.
Well, I've got a story here about the pirates. Like, very quickly.
How do you hang out with pirates?
Well,
is that why you're in Ramsgate now? Is that the long game?
That's the long game. Yes, absolutely. So this was this published in the Telegraph, and then here we go. So this is part of the syndication. So this is in Corriere della Sera. It's the Italian magazine, and they ran 2, 4, 6, 8.
Wow, big photo essays, man. No way.
10 pages. And just very quickly, lastly, really, so I did a story about pirates. I mentioned that. So how do you get your ideas? You know, what makes you go and do one thing or another? So reading papers, and I saw this little item in The Guardian, a 4-line item about piracy in South China Seas. It was put out by an outfit called the International Maritime Bureau, and they said about the level of piracy in the South China Seas was reaching astronomical levels.
So what part of your brain then thinks, I'm going to go, that seems like a really good place to go?
Well, you think...
How's that work, Mike?
Well, I just think,
Most people might think, I don't want to go where the pirates are. I don't want to be pirated. But you not only go there, you hang out with them, and you've got great photos as well.
Well, it was partly, since also, here's a good story. Here's a story no one else is covering. No one else is covering it.
Yeah.
So I think, well, actually, then there's an opportunity here. So I went to see the guy at the International Maritime Bureau, and he said, "Oh, I can put you in contact with all the people who are doing the anti-piracy work." And I said, "Okay, that's interesting, but I need to be with a pirate. So I don't get the pirates. There's no story." So he said, "Okay, watch this video," and he took me to another room, put the video on. He left the room. So it's a film about pirates, and it's actually pirates. And I thought, so the end credits.
Pirate 1, Pirate 2.
No. End credit was just producer name. Some producer's name. So I said, well, how do you get hold of him? So he gave me the email. So I ended a lot of contact with this producer. Finally, he put me in contact with the person who had got him access to do his story. Turned out to be an extremely sleazy bar owner in Manila.
But that's what you expect with pirates, isn't it? Why did you expect any different? Some guy with a clipboard and a white shirt, and he's coming in? No.
No, indeed. This guy was a complete... Anyway, another story. But and I had to pay him.
Of course.
I had to pay him $1,000.
Wow. I mean, the fact is now, like, I don't know what I could try and sell one of my photo essays for. Not much. I don't think I could get $1,000 for it. So immediately, like, the fact that you're able to do that and absorb those costs is pretty amazing.
And this bar owner had a relationship with the guy who ran the pirates. And these pirates were on a small island between Borneo and the Philippines. And basically they attacked smuggling ships. That's what they did. So so it was on a small island between the two places. And so it took 9 months to set the story up. 9 months. Of constant, regular phone calls and stuff. And I got the Telegraph to back it. And they got a partner in a German magazine also. So these two magazines backed the story. So now I had enough money to go off and do it. So I didn't actually have the Telegraph magazine to hand, but it ran a nice story. So this is in Casual magazine, which is this is German. So that's...
Was that Big Boy? I seem to remember the name.
That's Big Boy.
That's Big Boy.
And then, so they ran this set. So that was good. That's that one. And then, what's this one? Oh yeah, this is, which magazine is this in? Not quite sure which magazine this actually is. But anyway, this is another magazine. Yeah. I think this is Dutch magazine, so there were 2, 4, 6, 8 pages. So it actually became my best-selling story ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is in El Mundo in Spain. So in the end, I spent 24 hours with less than 24 hours with the pirates, and 5 weeks on the story. But because I had the pirates, it gave the whole thing an edge.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of individual stories within it all. This guy, he's a major pirate, hijacked big ships. 2 weeks after I took this picture, he was shot while trying to escape. So anyway, that was a self-generated story that went, produced good results.
Because I remember when I was coming up, like, I couldn't get anyone to take any of my ideas seriously, and I'd always have to like shoot them. But then when I'd sell them to them, I'd get paid probably like 8 times what they would have paid me for a day rate to have done it.
Well, that's.
But then, Nuclear Families, I remember it was The Guardian, was it like 2.5 grand? Was it only 3? But I had shot it over 7 months, and I'd shot medium format film as well. You know what I mean?
That's expensive stuff.
There we go. So yeah, Mike. So back to the website. I don't know if you guys have been checking out the website. I think I did say to say that in this take, didn't I? Good. But yeah, there's a whole list of photographers here. If you look on the left, there's an amazing slideshow playing. There's lots of names that I know. So do you want to just start out? You said there were 8 photographers.
So Mike Abrahams, Chris Davis, Roger Hutchins. No, Roger came later. Barry Lewis, John Sturrock. Sorry, I just, rather than looking at the list, I know them off by heart.
Yeah.
So the photographers in the beginning of the agency was John Sturrock, Mike Abrahams, Steve Bembo, Chris Davis, Judah Passo, as myself. Who else is? I think. And actually, if we could just look at the picture, let's start again and just go back to.
There's an amazing photo on the website, and it's like a little team photo from 1981 on Christmas. Barry Lewis is on the bottom left with a shutter release cable.
There's that.
And everyone's just going absolutely wild.
But this one is actually, a away day. So the people who were in the agency at the very, very beginning.
From left to right.
From left to right. It's Barry Lewis, Chris Davis, Laurie Sparham, John Sturrock, Judah Passo, Mike Abrahams, myself, and Steve Bembo. And in that picture you can see on the website of our away day, also in the picture is Martin Slavin, who was our office manager, and Sue Trangma, who was the picture editor.
Yeah.
So that's how it started.
Yeah.
And then over time, as the agency gained its reputation, and more people wanted to join. The thing is that at that time, in 1981, we were the first UK-based picture agency owned by photographers.
Right, but surely
Magnum had not yet set up an office and their own office in London. There's a guy called John Hillelson who represented Magnum in London. He had a little office in Fleet Street. I remember going there. Interesting, idiosyncratic guy, Hillelson. Anyway, so Magnum had an office in Paris, which was big, and New York, which was big. Yeah. So there were the 2 base areas for Magnum. Nowhere in London. It wasn't until Chris Steele Perkins set up the Magnum office in Clerkenwell in 1984.
Yeah.
So we were already running quite a long time by then. And so, the thing grew. Other people applied to join, and we took other people on. Some people were very active. Some people joined as full members. Some people joined as associates. So we all paid a percentage of our income into the agency. So from memory, I think it was 20% of assignments and 50%. Originally 40% and then 50% of library sales. We had a library of 1 million pictures. And we had 2 and sometimes 3 members of staff running the library. In fact, 3, because 2 picture researchers and then people as and another guy running the actually cataloguing
Because at this point,
material.
it's not digitized, guys. It's like files.
It's
and
files. It's
things
filing
and
cabinets.
Going through, finding
Banks of
them.
filing cabinets, banks of black and white, banks of colour, all organised.
Yeah. Not like typing like East Timor Go, like having to find all that across also lots of different photographers who might have covered the same beat. So, if you're looking for an archive image, I mean, it would have been a...
Say you want education, El Salvador. So I did quite a bit of stuff like that. But Jenny Matthews also came out and did something on it. So, or if you're going to UK, you say UK factories. Well, I mean, we all covered that stuff. Or miners' strike. I mean, we all did stuff on miners' strike. So there were lots and lots of material there. So picture editors would ring up or email, have you got a picture of Margaret Thatcher at, or Neil Kinnock, or anyone, individual people.
You guys were like the go-to guys then.
And we could turn stuff around very fast.
Yeah.
So either there would be the original prints would go out and come back, or the transparencies, we would often dupe in camera. I'm doing your portrait. I don't just do one picture, not because we both know we're going to be looking for the right moment. But if you get the right moment, the right expression, we've all got motor drives on our cameras. You'd shoot 3 or 4 frames because you knew that if you dupe in camera, then they're original transparencies. They're not dupes of the... So there's a dupe in camera could go straight into syndication sets or into the library for distribution.
Yeah.
So someone ring up and they want to colour a magazine they wanted, and so it would go on a bike, and in 2 hours from the request, it would be on the picture desk. So that worked very well all the way until digital, and that's when things all changed. But we will come on to that later. So anyway,
because for me, can I just shout out some mine? Because a lot of these guys taught me, because I was taught by Paul Lowe, who's listed as a member here.
Yes.
But I remember distinctly having people come in. We had, obviously, Judah Passow came in.
Yes.
Stuart Friedman came in.
Yes.
Tim Hetherington didn't formally come in, but, I saw him around at that time. Roger Hutchings was there.
Yes.
Barry Lewis taught us some lighting stuff. I remember seeing Jenny Matthews around. Not sure if it was formal, just kind of in there. Same with Gideon Mendel.
Yes.
And Tony Antonio. Is it Tony Antonio? Because it's like...
Everybody calls him Tony.
Yeah, Tony Olmos. But yeah, so they were kind of all people that I was aware of, but obviously way, way after all this period. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of...
Well, people joined over a period. I mean, I think one of the early joiners was Roger Hutchins.
Yeah.
And he's got lovely work, and he did a lot of stuff for the Observer newspaper as well as the magazine.
But it seems so broad to me in that, how you can have some sort of really classic, hardcore, like, war photography. And you got Paul Rees in there. Do you know what I mean? You've got this amazing kind of
a spectrum
range of photographers.
It was a broad church. Nikolai was a lovely guy and shot amazing work based in Moscow.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, moody.
Yeah, amazing. Wow, look at that one.
It's fantastic work. His wife actually written some very powerful books. Anyway, it's a whole other story.
And obviously Tim, when did Tim join? He must have been really young because he was 10 years older than me. So in 2000, he was 30.
Yeah, he joined when he was in his 20s, I think, 24 or something. 25. And he did a... The thing about Tim was a very focused, very concentrated approach to things. So his work in Liberia, that book he did on Liberia, was a phenomenal piece of work.
Obviously, I was just drawn to it because I'm a dork and love square format. That was my initial, because I wasn't seeing much of that kind of work at that time. I think Zia Gaffick did some stuff in Bosnia and other things, but I remember Tim's sort of square format. There's obviously some square format black and white here, some square format colour. But I remember the talks he gave, he was very much like, he didn't really give a shit about that. Like, he was very much about what's the best way to tell this story.
Well,
and I think at that point in 2007, he was doing a lot of filmmaking. He was doing some very experimental filmmaking with diary. So it was really interesting for me on a very kind of photojournalistic course with some very die-hard photojournalists, even at that age, who are like purists. Like Judah Pastor, I remember, taught us, and my friend Mark was like, he was Mr. No Flash, never used Flash, whereas I love using Flash. I remember having to use Flash because I shot film, and Judah was always like, I don't use Flash, and Mark loved that, and it was always like, what do you do if it's too dark? Well, I don't shoot. And it's like, whereas for me, I was always like, man, I love using flash in a way where it's subtle, where people might not even realise you're using
Likewise.
it. Anyway.
I mean, I think that's the skill of using flash. You use flash where you can't see that actually it's flash unless you look very, 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 very carefully.
Yeah.
But it saves the picture.
But the thing with Tim is it really put the cat amongst the pigeons, is where he was like not really beholden to photography. He'd be like, yeah, you could shoot it, or it might be it's a better film. And everyone's like, what? No, we make photography. That's what we do. Whereas he seemed quite kind of, even at that point, quite ahead of the curve in that it's coming to this new digital age where it's very much about, what is the best way to tell a story, and pretty smart considering the decline of printed media and how, 80% of the internet was consumed via video, I think 5 years ago, even then. So there we go.
No, very smart cookie, Tim. Very smart cookie. People have appropriated Tim in some ways. Lovely guy, and we all spent time with him on his final assignment.
Because for those who don't know where, he did die in Libya. He died in Libya. Chris Hondras was also.
It was a mortar, but they got hit by a mortar shell. And he actually, possibly a tourniquet might have saved his life, not the others, but possibly. Anyway, the thing about someone made a film was made about Tim, and it says, and I think the title was "Take Me to the Where is the Front Line?" As if he's a gonzo photographer.
Yeah, as if he's a Bang Bang Club, which he wasn't at all.
And take me to the front line. But that's not, I'm sure, how it was. If you enter a war zone, the first thing you need to know is where is the front line, because if you cross the front line, you're going to be hit by two sides. So the chances of surviving walking straight into a front line, pretty low.
Yeah, the weirdest thing is I've never experienced that, but I've done 20 years of protest photography, and you know what? That's exactly where you go when you do protest photography. You put yourself right between the protesters and the riot police. At least that's what I've always done, and that's what a lot of the protest photographers I admire have done. But obviously that's on a different level. It's so weird, isn't it? But
well, I think, my guiding principle has always been have a two-way ticket. A two-way ticket. So it's not worth dying for. Mm. No story is worth dying for. Because if you die, then the chances are that film's not going to appear anywhere anyway. Mm. So,
but the media kind of loves to do this, like what you're saying about, they title the film. It's essentially like a clickbait film, which way's the front line. But, there was that Oliver Stone film made, was it with James Wood Salvador?
Yes.
Right. Did you ever watch that film?
Several times.
Right, because I watched that as a kid and I was like, holy shit, this is fucking amazing, And as I got older, I was like, how much of this is real? Does this seem a bit far-fetched? But there's a bit where James Wood's on the phone, like saying, I've got a great story, I just need some money, I need to get my press card, and it seems so desperate, and everyone's divorced, and everyone's like stressed out of their minds. And as time went on, I realised, like, that's pretty much how it was for a lot of people.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I think there are elements of that which were not true. But, but the two-way ticket thing is crucial. And I think that, if you know there's a bullets flying, you won't go to the front line. Or if you go to the front line, you'll be tooled up. You have the right stuff on, so at least you can protect yourself. If people are throwing the odd can of something, then okay, you still need to be protected. Mm. But the key thing is being well informed, so you know who's going at who and why. And who's likely to protect you, who's likely to attack you.
Because the thing now as well is, it seems to me, like judging by statistics globally, like media, press are targets, like they've never been before.
No.
Look at some of the conflicts going on in the world now, like shocking figures of press killed in obviously Gaza, but like insane like levels. And there's those famous images of like the Bosnian War with like people like were you beaten? Paul was there, but you'd see like TV duct tape onto the side of a car and all that kind of stuff. And that was like, saying, hey, we're not a target. Whereas now, for whatever reason, in this new world we're in, the media is a target. It's really crazy.
It's tragic. Tragic. I remember I was covering Liberia with the conflict.